Welcome to Scaling the Wall, a podcast where we uncover the real stories behind how people got into cybersecurity in the first place. And what we're learning is, most didn't follow a straight path. And that wall that seems so high from the outside isn't as tall as it really looks. So listen in and see where your story might fit. Let's get to it. So you had 5 seconds to prepare.
I'm good. I'm collective now. I think. Well, collected? Is that the one? Collected?
I'm collected. There we go. Matt Lee, man, welcome to the podcast. Happy to have you on Scaling the Wall. I know it was kind of short notice, but
yeah,
you have great
and then
hair,
I'm late
so
because I'm a terrible human. So both short notice and then late, like those aren't good combinations. Like
nobody will know you were late. Well, they will now.
Well, they know now because but you know what? I'm one to tell on myself. Will, like I'd rather get in trouble by telling on myself. It's just easier to manage.
It's fair. It's fair.
Dox people,
dude. You and I have kind of known each other for 2-3 years now. I think I'm thinking how long I've been in the channel, probably 4 years, but I don't think I met you until about 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
But
yeah,
running into you at conferences, always have good conversations. You always have, I'll say, curveballs to throw at people to let them know that their product's not as cool as they think it is, which is always good because it keeps people on their toes, helps them improve. And I appreciate that about you. So I appreciate you jumping on here.
Thanks, man.
But, you know, especially for someone like you who's very prevalent in the space, we see you all the time. You're everywhere. Everyone loves to give you a high five or
high fives or hugs,
especially now that you're Mr. ChannelCon. I mean, that's just
sorry. Don't make me get the trophy off the shelf over there. It's already in the prestigious shelf spot.
But dude, I was running through I was snooping on your LinkedIn resume a little bit, and I scrolled down to the very bottom and saw you were working in finance before coming over to tech. So started in banking, finance, somewhere towards there, and then you got pulled into tech.
You want the whole run? I'll give you the 5-second whole run.
I want to know how.
Yeah.
I started in finance before coming over here, so it's interesting to hear that journey. So tell me where you come from.
Mine's a weird one. So I was standing in a junior college lobby in the career development office, and I saw this ad and it says, "You want to make $18,000 a year?" And I was like, "Bro, do I?" So
that's a college student. That's like
how long that was, right? Yeah. Like, bro, do I? And so it was for a financial advisory role. And as it turns out, like they were doing a lot of like hot market manipulation where they bring somebody in, take their natural market and then kind of milk them out and right. And so they made some profit there. But I came in and I was like, cool, I want to be a financial advisor. I was 19 years old and I get hired after 5 interviews. It was an interesting one. I won't beleaguer the whole talk, but anyways, Tim hires me and I went and took my Series 7 and then 66 and then life, health, and then variable annuities. So all of those tests. And there was a situation where if you fail one, you were fired. Like literally that was how brutal it was. It's like, you better not fail. And so I did all of those tests in 4.5 weeks or 5 weeks or so. And I get appointed right around 9/11. Like, so just the worst. I mean, I think I was literally appointed the day before 9/11. Like I came in hungover for my first day of work from the party we had. Anyways, I didn't also realize that just wearing red suspenders and being part of the Young Republicans Club at that time was like what really got me the old ladies that were giving me money as a little kid. Anyways, I digress. So I did a few years there, and then a pattern kind of began of me either getting offended or bored, and usually the latter more than anything else. And so I kind of went, and one day I was asked to do something illegal, basically. I had closed a $1,000 GDC or gross dealer concession deal in Alabama, but on Florida forms. I was doing this with a girl named Julia Gorgieva. She was amazing. She was a Czech woman. But anyways, and so we go over there, and we met this lady at Alabama, signed on Florida forms, come back, and it's GDC cutoff day. And this is during like fax times. Like I had to fax this in, right? So as to get paid, like this contract. And I realized it's on Florida forms, which you can't do, right? You need to be on Alabama forms if you're in Alabama. Right. And I tell my boss, and he's like, don't worry, she's already signed him once. Just sign him again for her on the right forms. We'll get it in today. Today's cutoff day. I'm like, I don't need it that bad. Like, I'll do it right tomorrow. I'll go back and see her and tell her I'm stupid. Anyway, so I ended up leaving. He basically told me if I wasn't going to do it, I could quit. Oh, my camera just went out. Well, here we are. We're back. Anyways, he told me, listen.
On your toes, always.
Yeah, I think it's just it gets hot. I have it on 4K and I shouldn't. Anyway,
but yeah.
But anyways, and so I ended up leaving and going to the bank. I went to Wachovia Bank and I was a banker for a few years. And then after that, I went back into ING Financial Partners as my own partnership with my next door neighbor and did that for a little while and then ended up making some decent money and leaving and going to doing mortgages. So I did mortgages as an independent mortgage broker. And what I got really good at that time, Will, was like understanding FHA law and understanding the rules of it and I knew that I could get something declined at Taylor Bean and Whitaker, which don't even get me into that separate story, but TBNW, and then take it to the Atlanta HUD office and get it overridden because it met the rules. And then it comes back to the original broker as an A paper. And so I can make 4 points on the front and 4 on the back. My wife was a realtor. We were making, combined, 10, 12. It was a good deal. And we did that for a while. And then this whole, I don't know, 2008 collateralized mortgage obligation thing came around, a little tranche action just to get the party going, a little bond rating to settle it off. Anyways, the world collapsed. And it wasn't that the world collapsed, it's that I'd made the practice of being the jerk that can get it done with a 370 credit score and not be a fog of mirror loan and be FHA that's actually validated to debt to income and all the things. And so I charged a lot for it. And so when that fell apart, what they ultimately do, and I won't get too deep into it, what they ultimately did was the banks just couldn't change the law, but instead just stopped funding lower credit score FHA deals as a response early on in this kind of time frame in 2008, 2009. So after that, I got out of the mortgage industry quite quickly, if you will, and I'd brokered a deal between two guys for some money loaned to a business, but collateralized by numismatic coins, some rubies and stuff in there, not a whole lot, but most of it was numismatic coins, so something collectible as gold, not just gold. And so I ended up going listen, I'll take a vig on this, I'll take 10 points, and I'll go sell it for you, right? Let me go see how that works out. And so I go and I follow these coin shows and I negotiate and use the traditional just friendliness to go make this happen, right? I've been in sales my whole life. And I sold them all for more than what it was worth. I took my 10 points or more than what he had it collateralized as. I suppose not more than what it was worth, but it's worth what somebody will pay you. But ultimately, that coin deal taught me that there was money to be had in buying gold at this time, right? So remember, this is 2009 and the market's kind of collapsing at this point for a lot of people. And so diamonds were also collapsing. So diamonds were trading at anyways, we'll get into that in a minute, but people were selling gold. The 80s generation had a lot of gold. A lot of people were in bad straits. They sold the gold because gold was so high. And so I learned I could buy gold at 60 cents on the dollar, pay a 10% bonus, make it 66, right? And then sell it at 98 and a half and get money overnight wired back. If you were following the rules, it'd be 2 weeks and overnight, but you know what I mean? I'm just saying whatever. I'm saying allegedly, but the point is, I was doing gold buying, mainly non-numismatic at that point, had 2 gold shops me and a buddy were running. And then, the markets changed and other conditions abided and I got bored with that. It just wasn't fun. And these 2 Armenian guys walked in my shop and said, one guy's 7 foot tall named Zadik Maneski. He goes by Steve, and Handpar was Harry. But anyways, and so they come in and they're like, hey, listen, we got a problem. We want to buy your diamonds. And I'm like, what do you mean, Mike? He goes, we'd like to buy your material. I'm like, what the hell's material, man? And he's like, diamonds. I was like, okay, well, the stuff I pull out of rings, the tiny stuff, the milli, 0.1 mil and 0.1 mil. And anyways, and so we're 0.1 carat. I'm sorry. Anyways, so we're buying the very, very small stuff, the milli, and he buys it from me, hands me $26,000 in cash. We go out to a club that night and hang out, and of less repute, but it was a good night. And he starts explaining to me over the night. He's like, when I walk in most places, they're just really racist. They won't talk to me. They don't trust me. They won't let me come in. They don't trust I'm actually going to pay them cash. I was like, well, I got a gift of gab. And so I traveled around the lower part of the United States for about a year and a half or so, buying and selling diamonds. I ended up getting really good at grading diamonds myself, finding diamonds. One of the funny stories out of that is at that time, we were in this little complex in Miami. Complex. They had a concrete wall for their 15-acre farm property. And it was like a complex. And we come in and we're buying $100,000. And diamonds aren't done on wire transfers. Diamonds aren't done on anything but cash. At least in that kind of market, it's a contemporaneous exchange of currency is the way it's seen. And so it has to be exactly right here, right now. Anyways, so diamonds, we're trading at such a low value and we're buying these stones. I'm in this giant, meeting with these kind of really quirky couple. And we'd already had to go to 12 banks to get out that money. If you don't know, when you're trying to take out $100,000 on a moment's notice, it's not simple. We drove all around Miami, stopping for 5,005s, and it was stupid,
Man,
dude. And they wouldn't let us use a counter, so it was hand counted. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but it was a wild meeting anyway. But it was funny because you have these 2 giant guys, and we're sitting there with our lights on our heads, and we have we have our pieces, and we're able to look at the stones, and we're trying to pull out the stuff that isn't real. You can boil diamonds, by the way, in sulfuric acid at high temperature and high purity, and it'll take fake diamonds and they crack, not fake real carbon, but cubic zirconia, other things of that nature, or they'll turn yellow and crust over. And so you can just took a little tiny microscope, you're sitting there pulling out those. But we also pulled out these things we called brownies. Brownies were dark chocolate brown colored diamonds. And this was right before Lebion's like, dude, these things are worthless. We'll sell them as chocolate diamonds. So like we threw away like millions of dollars in chocolate diamonds, like off the floor. Like I'm not even taking it for industrial purposes. Like we just threw them away. Like it was anyway, side tangent. But um, after diamonds, my wife and I decided that for a lot of reasons, we had kids that were getting, in the age of toddlers. I carried a pistol every day. We got robbed 6 times. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just not a lifestyle that sustains, and other reasons I won't share publicly. But we moved up to the place where we lived for a long time. And that's when I became an MSP. I just wanted to be in tech. I hadn't made that little amount of money in so long, but I reached out. I took a job interview with Chris Hoos and ultimately became technician number 7. And about 6 or 7 weeks later, I realized I need to run an MSP. I want to start my own MSP. Maybe I got to move. I don't care. That's not a big deal to me. And instead, Chris said, Matt, you want to put your money where your mouth is and buy a piece of this? We got a guy leaving and we're offering it at a very high price. That's not very efficient for you, but would you like it? And I liked living where I was more than moving and doing it. And so I said, yeah, absolutely. Anyways, that's the journey. The full journey is, finance to diamonds to, as one naturally does.
That's awesome. But yeah, I mean, stepping into something established also, I mean, yeah, you had to pay a little more to do it, but that's interesting. And, one phrase you kept using that stood out to me is in previous jobs. I mean, the diamond one, that didn't necessarily seem this way. That seemed really interesting, but a lot of other roles you were in, you kind of just said you got bored.
Yeah.
What about cybersecurity keeps you from getting bored?
Well, first off, you have an underpinning of why can you never leave tech? So I used to want to just like ask questions, Will. And if you did that as a financial advisor, it was well received for finance purposes, but not all the other things. But when you're in tech and you're sitting there with a business owner, you can usually get them to talk to you about their business that makes them proud, that makes them money, how they make money, all the things that you might want to know. And they don't mind being your friend. And we'll talk to you about stuff that isn't related. I mean, the financial advisor always keeps this barrier level. I mean, unless you're like, oh, Biff, let's go hang out at the club, which I've never been that guy, right? So, but I would always get bored. And what about finance? Well, technology is the same way. I mean, I could meet with a new type of company every day and ask them questions about their environment. I mean, I know about biochem. I know about manufacturing. I know about like all those things you'd never be exposed to if you didn't have that ability to just ask questions. So I could never leave for that reason. But also tech is broad and deep. I mean, like, it's just broad and deep by its very nature. I mean, just if you think about just trying to stay up with every technique that's happening just in the AI space, context management and MCPs and all of that, like that's just in the last year. I mean, MCPs got invented by Anthropic last November as a concept. I mean, just as even a statement. So tech and cybersecurity go hand in hand because of their breadth and the interconnectiveness. And so when it comes to staying abreast of cybersecurity, you have this 2 forces at play, in my opinion, Will. You have one force that is it's the fucking basics. It's always the basics, and it's always the fucking basics. You don't do the damn basics. So you have that. That's the first piece. Like you have that piece of the boring level of cybersecurity, like locking your house up, right? Closing the windows, making sure that right the basics, and they don't do the basics. So people suck at the basics, and they call cybersecurity hard. So let me start with that first. If you get the basics right, though, the cyber techniques, the cyber capabilities, the methodologies are always changing, improving, and different based on what software you might be on or which person you bet on before. You think about software today, you can go make software today, get an investment round, and never even really have a security plan for how you secure the software. Like that's totally viable still right now. You can code something and have it sold in 3 months. And so you're in this interesting place where like the landscape is so vast and changing because we do stupid things in the name of capitalism. And it's great. And I love me some capitalism, but this is where the insurance world has been suffering. I mean, well, if we take it back to your kind of day job, not to bring it to this conversation, but like you're making bets on stuff where the software sucks, the settings aren't being chosen, the basics aren't being done, and people signing applications. Like this is a real problem.
It's retro. I'll say it retro. That's what's preventing or what's the blocker for MSPs even getting their clients to a point that they're adhering to the basics?
Economics, often. Economics and willpower. Jason Slagle and I have done a talk a couple places, and I've co-opted it for other things. But we were putting together some data that was saying that SMB, in general, small to mid-sized business, spend 6 to 7% of their top-line revenue on all tech. Okay. 14.9 million businesses in the United States that fall under 500,000 in revenue, right? The largest category. And if you do that math, that's 500,000 times 7 is $35,000 a year. So when you start getting into it, there's an aspect of Nobody's forced them to do it. That's part of it. Insurance has made such a big difference in that, right? Just even in willpower, like what does it take to get your kid to make the bed? Does your kid understand the bed? Do they understand the salary challenge they're going to lose because they're not getting their whatever it is? What do you call it when you hand a kid money for no reason?
Their allowance.
Allowance. That's the word I was looking for. That trash.
I never got
job.
one of those.
Yeah, I didn't either, man. There's no. I just understand it's a concept, so I like to like keep it alive. Anyways, but genuine, like how your kid knows they need to make the bed. You said it. They did it for 3 days. They stopped doing it. What made them keep doing it? Unless outside forces exist to continue doing that, they don't happen. And I think insurance or assurance or any of the programs that are looking at, did you do the stuff you say you're going to do? And if you did, then we're great. Are probably getting more results from that because you're forcing someone to think about it. What else does it take, though, is intention. MSPs will continue to lose. And as they continue to lose, they will fix that. It will get better. You will be better at it. It's just, we deal well with that. And MSPs do bring economy of scale. But even to that point, SMBs think they can still hand that measly 6 to 7% off to buy the laptop, to do all the things to that technical provider and never be involved in those decisions. And that's the other half of this, is that you have a client not understanding you can't just hand the stick to someone and say, go run with it, Will. You got my tech now, bro. You're the smart guy. And you've heard it. If you've ever been in tech, you've heard someone say to you, oh, you're the smart guy. That's why I hand it to you. You figured out. I'm like, no, Sally or Bill, I need you to answer my question because it matters. And that's why I'm asking it. Right. And so you have that. I think those two effects, the capitalism aspect of it, like just the raw economics of small to mid-sized business and this kind of force multiplier, combined with nobody holding that accountable, is the reason an MSP can do that. And then if you add in the fact that anybody can be an MSP and all I have to do is say, I'm an MSP and whatever advice I give is sacrosanct to this person that's consuming it, it's even worse. It's even more challenging there because you're not pushing on something as a solid object. You're pushing on something that's malleable that can be varying degrees of their understanding. And this comes up in this review I was just doing earlier, Will. Like I was just looking at some data set and it was asking like the generalist MSP, the everyday OML generalist MSP, what percent, Will, would you think would say, like if you're playing Family Feud, what percent of that populace would say that they are doing threat hunting for their clients? What percent would you think would answer that? Just remember, put yourself in their shoes.
That would say they're doing threat hunting? I don't know, 30%?
It was 54 in this study.
Okay.
Either of them blow my mind.
Yeah.
Because the problem is to say that they're actively going and some human or some process is going and looking at modern TTPs or Yara rules or other types of rules they can bring in, star rules, and then hunting for them inside their active operation. No. But maybe their MDR is. That's why they answered it that way. All I'm trying to illustrate.
That's why I said 30 is I'm thinking like,
That's
they
why.
think they're doing it?
Yes, that's why. And they probably, if they have an MDR, there's some likelihood that they've built a good amount of rules based on threat feeds to do exactly what they're doing, which is to try to find threats, right? And so like, I would agree that that is true. I'm just kind of pointing out that like, that the answer of these questions isn't always understood by the answerer because there is no limitation to who can be the answerer.
Yeah, I mean, don't we see that? You brought up insurance before. That's one of the reasons why clients are always shoving those insurance forms over to the MSP is they're like, if I have to answer this, I'm going to answer it wrong. But then the MSP looks at it and says, well, I'm probably going to answer this wrong because they're asking a black and white question about something that's not black and white.
Yeah.
So that
exactly.
leads to a whole different tangent and a whole different conversation.
Well, asking binary questions for non-binary answers, right? To
Yeah,
your point
exactly.
Like, hey, do you have MFA on what? Which one? Like, how do you want to go down this journey? Like, I have 37 applications. Which one you want to know about? Anyways.
The early days of carriers understanding or trying to understand cybersecurity, just blanket, do you have MFA? Like this, that's it. Do you have it? Sure.
Yeah, man, I got that MFAs. I bought a whole tank full of MFA. Man, I got that left tank full of MFA right now, bro.
What do you think? So you brought up something that my brain went to resilience. You said, not in the security resilient kind of way, but you said as MSPs lose, they're going to adjust so that they don't lose in the same way again. Ideally, I mean that's where success comes from, right? But then it got me thinking of that concept of resilience because in the same way, unfortunately, a lot of times when businesses undergo a cyber attack, that's when they're willing to up their security.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So like, we want to get resilient now because we weren't before. But how does that concept? So we're in this world, right, where we say it's the assumes. I'm going to say cyber incident so that people.
No, assume breach works for that.
Assume breach mentality, right? So if we live in that, should MSPs be shifting from security first to resilience first in their mindset, or is it all kind of this own? Is there a greater understanding of security that needs to come from?
Yeah, the latter. Well, think about what is the word security? Like, which part? Do you want to talk about identify, protect, detect, respond, recover? Well, if I'm going to be better at resilience, I'm also going to increase security by being better at detection earlier, right? To aid towards my now resilience. Obviously, I don't want to. I don't want to misspeak because I want to make sure people understand this concept in the way I think of it. Anyway,
Yeah,
to make me
please.
right. But when you talk about like what is security, in my mind, think people should think further right of boom, which both encompasses a security approach and a resilience approach, right? And what do I mean by that? If I think like I'm left of boom, I'm going to be left of the explosion. I'm always going to be left of the explosion. I'm going to put in better protections. I'm going to put in better identification. Those are still viable and serve the other three, but there's three after the boom. There's detect, which is after the boom, respond and recover, that's after the boom. So I already say just mathematically, there's 3/5 versus 2/5 that are after explosion. But if I think right of boom, I can think in like, okay, I want to find these threats. I want to put in deception techniques that help me trigger on them earlier, right? That this folder got targeted. And the only reason it ever get targeted is a threat actor. Nobody's ever going to go to these folders or these SharePoint sites or these blanks. Those are putting in things that help me be better at detection because I'm assuming breach. Back to your point of like, that's the shift that needs to happen, I think, of that. But even then, when you think of like what is resilience, I think one of the first lawsuits was an Alabama hospital that decided to, after a ransomware, continue operating even though they hadn't used paper in 10 years. Yeah, they had the paper here, but they hadn't done it. They hadn't had paper charts. They hadn't looked at paper charts. They hadn't set up processes to look at the chart more frequently because there's no manual or automatic alerts, like, or automatic, not manual. So it'd make you think about resiliency. Like, what systems can I afford to lose? How do I isolate? How do I set up systems so they have isolation? Do I use multiple IDPs so that I have an IDP for a certain secrecy level or, importance level and a different IDP for different things that I do for function separation? Do I set up ways that I have other systems I could use for this? Like, we always use this Jira, but for this period of time, we have great backwards compatibility to bring it back out of SharePoint. Let's do that. And we know that our plan is to bring it back into Jira after this. Or, and I'm just spouting words in this regard. But my point being is how do you think about surviving after you lose an arm? How do you think battlefield dressing from that perspective and continue forward drives you to be better aware of your security for a lot of reasons? Number one, I think you're more aware of those damn sensitive things like that whole main vein coming out of my chest, that whole aorta thing or whatever it is. Like that one matters more than getting stabbed in the stomach. Maybe we take one in the stomach for the team, right? It's like trying to come up with how you understand the risk of each of your things you own probably comes from a resilience planning, thinking in this like business continuity or BCP thought process, right? Like, how do I continue in a hurricane is still going to teach me a lot about how I deal with a cyber event potentially.
Yeah.
Right. And in that way. So we just need to bring it more into the overall umbrella of risk in the way we think of things. And that then, if you focus on resiliency and business continuity of operations as opposed to of the security, I think it should force the security, right? Because then you start shifting risk to understand it and you can budget accordingly. You can plan for the things that matter the most accordingly because of their, length of chain from the main blood vein, right? If you will, the things that matter. I don't know. A lot of just spouting thoughts, Will, but
dude, there's so much you said that I want to unpack, but I'm going to pick one and keep it really simple. So all that stuff you just said, from really understanding not just the security needed to protect, but what could happen and adjusting your strategy based on what could happen and what you need, what you don't need in the time of events, all that kind of stuff. Do you think the majority of MSPs are planning that way?
No, not majority, or probably even getting close to it. But I also will say all of them are aware of the problem now that weren't. And I think that if you and I both at some point weren't at that logical conclusion, I also think there's a bit of arrogance that comes from marketing. And I'd say it's getting less. But if I am a practitioner that's just stepping into surgeries and I hear this one company be like, stops all post-surgical deaths. Like if you use these scalpels, like it's going to fix everything, bruv.
100%.
Right? Like, and there's no other evidence to tell you that that's not true or training in your past or background, then you're going to believe it. There's a reason a dude just took a donkey and a bunch of pills around every town until he got run out on rails, right? It's because he could sell to that next ignorant populace. And I'm sorry for saying it this way, but I think a lot of vendors sell to an ignorant populace and have taken advantage of that. If you've ever seen stops all threats on a banner, or the definition of something major like zero trust is this is zero trust, when it's such a pedantic and small little tiny window application of that across the whole space that needs to be added, you've made people more ignorant. And I think that that's the problem, is that there is a forced ignorance by marketing dollars upon a lot of people. Like, you can be an MSSP in a day. What does that even mean? You haven't even defined it. And then what do you mean? What are the operational aspects, the scale aspects, the money? You don't know shit about me. You don't know shit about my clients. You don't know anything about the crown jewels. There's so much Carter's pills but really still pre-snake oil days, pre-FDA days. And we just haven't made it there yet. And anytime you have an ignorant populace, an easy amount of churn, anybody can be an MSP in a day. Any ignorant, and I don't mean ignorance in a negative. I'm ignorant about a lot of things. So I hope ignorance isn't taken as a diminutive concept. But anytime that you have someone that is ignorant of something and you have no consumer safety rules in place, you can take advantage of them, whether you mean to or not, from market forces. And the fact that anybody can be an MSP and any SMB will just believe them because they have great marketing or great outreach doesn't mean they get the same results. It doesn't mean that their outcome's the same. And that's a problem for insurance too, right? And I've done several talks, Will, one of them to like Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 CISOs, 120 of them in Nashville last year. And my argument was like, yeah, do all the STIGs, do all the, or not STIGs, do all the standard questionnaires and the things you're going to do for your risk management for your SMBs. But like, then go ask their MSP like 5 open-ended questions. And based on those open-ended questions, just decide whether or not to work with that SMB or not. Like, just straight up, just don't take the raw risk of, oh, yep, they've got an MSP and they answered the questionnaire. Go ask them, like, how do you deal with asset management? And if their answer makes sense or shows the complexities of the problem in some way, great. If they go, I have an RMM, we're probably done here. We're probably good. Like, I don't think we can have a conversation. We're not meant to speak at this party. Anyways, I digress.
I mean, what you're saying is crucial, I think, from the marketing perspective. And it just gets me thinking. So I have a toddler now, right? And my toddler is at the stage where like she's super into opening and shutting doors. So we're looking for toys that require opening and shutting things and like finding playhouses that she can go into and out of. And that's fun stuff. But marketing to something like that is easy. It's like, here is this tried and true structure of a plastic house that she can go in and go out. Oh, you want wood because you're being environmentally sound or whatever, right? When it comes to cybersecurity and it comes to vendors and they're selling to MSPs and they're saying gonna prevent 100% of risk. I don't see that as much anymore. I did see that a little bit when I started in the channel, but at the same time, there is this, like you brought up zero trust. It's like this is zero trust when it's this broad spectrum of understanding. So they're marketing in such a way that honestly I think is dangerous, because it's not just, they're not just preying on an MSP who may or may not know better, but those MSPs are then transferring that to a business, to an SMB that can hurt their liability. So it creates a trickle effect of issues here.
And a EULA that limits the liability, or an end user license agreement that limits their liability. Like, yeah, I mean, this is all I can owe you. I'll pay you $100,000, but I just lost $4 million.
Yeah.
100%.
You're playing with fire. And that's concerning to me. So before we wrap up, Matt, I had one other question. So I was looking, just kind of thinking of where you're at now, right? Because I do love talking about the journey on this show. You started as kind of a fresh-faced MSP. You're like, I want to get into tech. I want to do this. You end up buying into an MSP, doing all that kind of stuff. Now you're on like, you're like compliance, board members of multiple organizations. Like, you're involved. Like, what accelerated you to there? Like, how'd you get from fresh-faced to board members and deep? I mean, you're traveling all over the friggin' place with Kat now. CyberLease, #CyberLease.
Just working. CyberLease is working out great, man.
Yeah,
it's hitting.
Seriously, I like it. Like, what's that? Because one of the things I like to wrap up episodes with is, how do you encourage people who are in that space where like, I got into an MSP because I love tech, I'm figuring all this out, but man, some days it is rough, it is brutal.
Oh yeah.
How do I persevere, and where can that get me?
Yeah. I'm first off, I'll tell you that's always a constant struggle no matter where you find yourself. I think it doesn't matter. I think that there's such a human nature to do that, first off. But what brought me here, I hope you don't replicate. I had a lot of skill, but I could like literally catch me if you can if I wanted to, right? I don't mean that to be braggadocious. I just mean I could do different things. I've proven over my life to just change careers on a whim. And so if I hadn't have lost, like we lost in 2019, not just the loss of the money and like the loss of the company and the loss of all those things, but just like the loss of self, the victimhood, I guess is a way to say it, the knowing that you are the bad guy in a lot of cases to your clients. Like in our case, we didn't get victimized like a Kaseya vulnerability like Eric at ProTech did or Robert Chaffee did. We bought a company that had gotten pwned and never remediated it. And like we were the direct victimizers of these humans. For these clients getting ransomed a third time now in 12 months or 16 months or so, they were not happy, Will. And there wasn't an amount of meeting with me that they were willing to remove venom. Even though I might have just bought somebody and they don't know me from Adam, I represented the face of that company. And so for me, it was a combination of people hating you, because of the failure that is imminent. And, 2019 was like the early ramp up of this, right? Of the ransomware space. And then this separate space of, I then got involved, Will, with any company that I had $1 million or more we spent with them, right? We were making about 40 million in revenue, 30-something million in revenue at this time. Maybe it was in the high 20s. And so I sat on a bunch of different advisory boards, and everywhere I went, Will, it was the same shit. It was the same technical debt. It was the same platitudes. It was the same victimizing of these victims of MSPs by putting the next feature request that they're asking with their dollars for in front of fixing tech debt and in front of fixing legacy problems. And you still see that with all the things. And I don't want to poke at any one of them, but Kaseya, Slash and Grab, like all of them, right? 55 Palo Altos a week. Anyways, I tease. Don't sue me, Palo Alto. I still love you. But the point is, like, I got victimized in a way that I got to interpret 26 companies' deaths or lawsuits or settlements and frustration of 3 ransoms and what that does for you. And then you see a landscape that's setting everybody up for failure and people not being able to deal with it and this risk. So it's passion is the answer, Will. Like, I'd always had a high work ethic. I'm pretty smart. I can be charismatic when I need to. I'm an introvert, but I can extrovert. And so, like, ultimately I had a mission. I mean, from that moment forward, like, you want to find something that makes you have drive in life, find something that you know you're going to do till you die. Like, I know I will not solve this. We won't get to a self-regulatory body in my lifetime. We won't get to mainly solving this, at least I don't think, in my professional lifetime. I think we'll see ebbs and flows as we see changes in our world. And anyways, short story is, once you have that passion, even though you're still, and I want to say this out loud, like, I struggle. I get up and go, why am I doing this today? And I have to come back to, well, it's my mission. It's what I chose to do. And maybe you wrestle with that sometimes. I mean, and mission centric makes it easy to go, well, maybe that ain't my mission no more, right? I chose this. I can go away from it. Anyways, maybe oversharing. But the point is that once you have that kind of loss, I feel like there's just a fire, and then you kind of feel appointed to do this. Like, it's like, this is my calling, I suppose. And then I'll go way back. I did a life plan in 2017 with Rich, I think McGraw is his name. It doesn't seem right, but Rich something in Clarinda, Iowa. And one of the things that he said is, Matt, you got to stop being an engineer. You got to stop being a technician. You're crippling your team by doing and succeeding and always doing the work and being willing to work every night. What's your hobby? And it's this concept of your highest and best use. Like, what do you think the best use for your capabilities are? And we kind of came to that I'm being selfish when I'd sit on that fucking keyboard, and that's all I'd do. I would do that every day, all day. That's what makes my heart happy. I get excited doing a CTF. I really love doing a pen test. Jason and I sitting nerding out on code is my happiest place to be, not the stage. But I think there's a certain habu that then came to of, I was better off driving people to be impassioned, driving people to want to be better, driving people to want to succeed. And then combine that with this one guy, Eric told me this. He says, Matt, people don't want to go watch you on stage to watch you succeed. They want to watch you on stage so that they can succeed. They want to put themselves in that lens. So short story is, how did I get where I'm at, and how could someone get where they're at? Find passion and chase that passion, and find a mission, whatever that might be, and analyze that. I mean, if it's to blow up the White House, probably not the best one, I would say. But find a mission. And I think once you do that, you can always come back to the mission as the reason you're doing what you're doing, if that makes sense. And because of that, you'll be passionate. You'll stand up when people ask. You'll overcome your fears. I couldn't listen to myself for the first year I was doing recordings. I don't know what you will, but like, when I started doing this talky talk stuff, like I couldn't even listen to myself. Anyways, and
dude, I hate the sound of my own voice.
It's terrible.
Sometimes I talk deeper just so I sound better.
I digress. But
dude, what a story, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to jump in here at such short notice.
Yeah, man.
And also, just I'm looking at it now, and it looks like our rooms are kind of connected because the lighting color.
Yeah.
I like it.
Your purple light's like over here somewhere. It's in the rooms.
Great. Thanks for listening to Scaling the Wall. This episode was brought to you by UKON. At UKON, we believe everybody has the right to survive a cyber attack. Learn more at ukon.com. That's UKON.com. Be sure to check out the show notes if you want to learn more about and connect with our guests from this episode. And if you enjoyed the show and like what you heard, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, and hit the bell so you never miss a future episode. See you next time.